All right, we had our first night of the Focus on Evangelism conference for 2021 and had a good turnout, but unfortunately we had a mishap with the recording. And the audio was good, but we didn't have any video, and I just couldn't bring myself to do anything other than redo the whole lesson. So here I am, empty building, and I'm going to go ahead and redo this lesson because I want people to be able to come back and watch this and it be a help to them. And so, Lord willing, this will be a blessing. This will be the best way to do it. So we're going to go over the lesson again. If you've got your sheets with the fill in the blank, first let's go to 1 John chapter 5. 1 John chapter 5. First John chapter 5. Okay, so lesson 1 begins, what do they know? That's the question that we're trying to get to. The person that we're trying to win to the Lord, what do they know? And a lot of people think that they can't know for sure about going to heaven, but we want to get them to the point where they understand that there is a way to know for sure you're going to heaven. 1 John chapter 5, verse 13, it says, "These things have I written unto you that believe on the name of the Son of God, that you may know that you have eternal life, and that you may believe on the name of the Son of God." So he's wanting them to believe on the Son of God, on Jesus. And so he's preached these things, he's written these things down so that they might believe. And then he says, and that you may know that you have eternal life. So we can know for sure we have eternal life, and that's based on the fact that we believe on Jesus. We put our faith and our trust on Jesus for our salvation. And once we get that down, that we know that, then we can know for sure we're going to heaven. And that's where we get what we call our eternal security or our assurance of salvation. But so many people in this world don't have that hope. So let's begin the lesson. When we go out soul winning, the purpose, think about that phrase there, soul winning, the purpose is to win souls. Okay, we want to win souls for Christ. But we can't really win them until they know that they're lost. And so part of the whole process is trying to get them to understand their need for being saved. Now that doesn't mean that we need to, just try to make them feel guilty and to feel bad and hey, realize how dirty of a rotten sinner they are. Because all of us just need to realize that we've all broke God's laws, and one person is not more worthy of heaven than the other person. We all deserve hell, and so we've got to make sure that they understand that and that they begin to listen to the plan of salvation. That's what we're trying to do, is get them to that point where they listen to the plan of salvation. Now, unless somebody just comes to you, there's like this extremely rare case. We see it once in the book of Acts, where the Philippian jailer comes to the Paul and Silas and says, "Sirs, what must I do to be saved?" Now, that's not going to happen very often. I've had one time I did have kind of like the Ethiopian eunuch though, where somebody came to me like Ethiopian eunuch came to Philip, and he said, "Hey, what do I need to do to get baptized?" And I remember thinking like that's really a good start to a soul winning conversation. What must I do to be baptized? And then you can give them the plan of salvation. But very rarely are you going to knock on someone's door and they're going to open and say, "Oh, I've been waiting for you. What must I do to get saved?" And so, barring any kind of extremely rare case like that, most likely going to have to take people through a process, and that's the next blank there. We got to take them through this process so that they might realize their need for salvation. Now in this little gray box here, I have this note. This is a little confusing to some people, I think, because a lot of people don't like the phrase soul winning. They say, well, you can't go out there expecting to win souls. You don't win souls for salvation. Only God wins souls. And I want to show you this, that it's biblical. It's actually biblical that we win people, or we win souls. And even not only that we would win people, that's a biblical phrase, but that we would save people. And a lot of people are like, no, you can't save anybody. Only God can save. And they act as though we have no part in that it's all God's work. Look at 1 Peter chapter 3, and I want to look at these terms here, winning somebody and saving somebody. 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 1. Likewise, ye wives, be in subjection to your own husbands. Now, you didn't think that was going to make it into a soul-winning conference, but that's what it says. That if any, talking about the husbands, if any obey not the word, they also may without the word be won by the conversation of the wives. And what you have here is what some would call a lifestyle evangelism. Now, I'm not big on lifestyle evangelism because usually people mean by that, that's the only form of evangelism that you do, is people just see your life and they say, hey, that's a good Christian, I want to be like that person, and that'll win them to Christ. I don't believe in lifestyle evangelism, but I do believe that that's the very least that we as Christians should do towards evangelism. And it is true that if some people don't care about what the Bible says, yet they see in the believer somebody who is living the way the Bible tells them to live, that it could win them, is what this says. That they, without the word, they might be won by the conversations of the wife. So there's a wife who's winning her husband. Okay, that's one of the places we use. Of course, the phrase he that winneth souls is wise is in the Bible, and we use that for soul winning. Some people don't like that. They just say that's not what that means. Okay, but it's actually very consistent in the Bible. But not only that, the Apostle Paul talks about saving people in 1 Corinthians chapter 9. 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 22, Paul says, to the weak became I as weak, that I might gain the weak. That'd be kind of like saying win. I might gain the weak, I might win them. All right? That I might gain the weak. I am made all things to all men, that I might by all means save some. All right? And there are other places in the Bible where he says this too. He's like, I want to save some people. What's he saving them from? From hell. And some people say, you can't save, only God can save. And God does the work and he draws men to them. But here's the thing. When we preach Christ, Jesus said, if I be lifted up, I'll draw all men to me. Okay? And the fact of the matter is, when we preach the cross and the crucifixion of Christ and the gospel message, the death, burial, resurrection, what we're doing is we're lifting up Christ. The world doesn't know this. They don't understand that unless they hear that, that message preached. And so we need to show it to them. We need to teach them. When we lift up Christ, then the Holy Spirit draws men. It pricks their hearts. And then they have an opportunity to receive that. But we do have that responsibility to go out and to do that. Or else the men and women will not be won for Christ. Romans 10:14 says, how shall they hear? How shall they call on whom they have not believed? And how shall they believe in he whom they've not heard? And how shall they hear without a preacher? So it takes somebody preaching. I'm not talking about a pastor that gets up and preaches from the pulpit. I'm saying it takes somebody who goes out and with their mouth they talk to the people and they tell them what it is that they're supposed to be trusting in and believing in. And that's what we do when we go out and preach the gospel. And we try to win souls, and we try to save people or get people saved. Might be a better way to so people don't freak out whenever you say we saved somebody. But let me just tell you about that, about saving. So the illustration here that you've got, well, first let me give you the other blanks. So here are some phrases, some biblical words that we find in the Bible. Winning souls, I already talked about that. Catching fish, Jesus said, I'll make you fishers of men. Reaping the harvest, right? That's a farming idea about going in there. You got to go out and reap the harvest. And these are biblical terms. And so there's a responsibility we have to do the work in bringing men to Christ. And here's the illustration I want to give. One of my favorite illustrations about this is the concept of throwing out a life preserver. Obviously, I don't have the saving power. When I throw that life preserver out there, I'm not the one that's doing the actual elevating them, making them float out of the water and bringing them above the water. The life preserver is doing that. But I've got to throw that out to them and they got to grab on. Okay, and we do have a work to do in salvation. Jesus said, "This is the work that you believe in Him who God has sent." And so this is the work of God, right? That you believe, and so the sinner has the responsibility to reach out and grab that life preserver, which is salvation through faith in Jesus Christ. And we, as gospel preachers, and men and women who go out and preach the gospel, we have got to throw out that life preserver for them to grab onto. So I just want to make that little note because some people don't like the phrase soul winning, and they don't like this idea about we win souls or we get people saved, but it's actually a very biblical concept. Now, the following lessons, this is just going to be lesson 1 that we're going to cover today, but the following lessons will cover the typical process we use in order to win a soul to Christ, okay? Doesn't mean that this is the only way that you can win somebody to the Lord, and doesn't mean that this exact process is laid out anywhere in the Bible. This is just something that we've put together based on the Bible and based on the ideas, the principles of the Bible, that we feel like it's tried and tested and it's been proven to be a process and a method that make it easier for us to understand and to think through these actions as we go out, and they work. They help people to understand the gospel and to be confronted with the idea that they're going to go to hell if they don't receive Jesus Christ. And that's what we want to do. We want to go through this process to get them there. Okay, so in the next box that has the little, what do you call that, like talking bubble, and everywhere you're going to see those, these are going to be things that we would say at the door, like this is the next thing to say. I don't expect anybody would actually necessarily memorize this and say it word for word, but typically this is the idea when we go out. This is the basic idea of what you're going to say. Okay, so number 1, we're going to introduce ourselves. Okay, now I have been guilty a time or two of going to a house, and as soon as they poke their head out, I'm like, hey, those are some neat plants over there. What are those plants called? Or that's a cool tree. And you can kind of see that on the person's face, like, and what are you doing here? You came to my house to talk about my tree, or what's going on, right? So we want to go ahead and introduce them. They don't know you. You're coming to their door uninvited, and they don't know you. So right away we want to introduce ourselves. I'll often say, hey, I'm from Iola Baptist Temple. I already messed up. My first point actually says hello, and then state your name and state your soul winning partner's name. Okay, so the first thing you do is, hey, I'm Pastor Rocky Randall. You won't say that. I'll say that because I'm the pastor. I'm Pastor Rocky Randall, and this is my soul winning partner. Brother Jeff or whatever, and I'll say we're from Iola Baptist Temple. Now, in our name, we've got a kind of a unique name. Instead of Iola Baptist Church, it says Iola Baptist Temple, and I can preach a message about that. And I plan on one day making a video, putting it on a YouTube video, put it on our website. Why that name is Temple and why we haven't changed that. But the reality is today, here's what I think. When I hear the word temple, I think about the Mormon church that practices their worship in what they call the temple. And so when I'm introducing myself and I introduce our church, and this is just specific for our church, but I often will say Iola Baptist. Hey, I'm from Iola Baptist. They can fill the rest in their mind. But sometimes I won't say temple just because it might throw them off right at the beginning. That's just a personal preference though. But I'll say, hey, I'm Pastor Rocky Randall. This is my soul winning partner, so-and-so, and we're from Iola Baptist, and we just want you. We just wanted to give you this invite, to the church, and then we hand them the gospel invite with the church invite with the gospel on the back. And now here's an approach that I often take. Some people might not agree with me on this, but I like to take that invite that's got the gospel tract in the back, and when I stand at the door, as soon as they crack that door open, hey, I'm Pastor Rocky Randall from Iola Baptist Temple. And I just hold that out in front of them. And, occasionally I've had somebody challenge me, and they'll just kind of look at me, and they'll look down at the paper, and they'll look at me. But if you wait out long enough, they'll usually grab it. Okay, so I'll hold that out to them because I want them to have that. And here's why. Because even if they say get lost, if I got that in their hand, there's still that possibility. And I've had people call the church like a day later or so after we sat there at the door and had a conversation because they had that information still in their hand. And they got the contact information, they got the website, they got the a link to the videos on our website that give the plan of salvation. And it's always possible that would lead them down an avenue where they would hear the gospel, even if they tell me to get lost. That's a possibility. So I like to make sure that they took that. Sometimes they took it. I don't know. It's a psychological thing. You've kind of made them take it, and now that they've taken it, I've had people say later on, like, well, I'm Jehovah's Witness. I'm not supposed to take this. And I'm just like, no, you go ahead and take that, and maybe you get a chance to read it or something. And then I'm like trying to get away because I want them to hold on to that. Now, they'll probably just throw it away, but you never know. And so that's the thing that I do while I'm introducing myself. I'm holding that out, saying we're from Iola Baptist, and we want to give them this church invite. Now, right away, you need to realize this, okay? When you're knocking on somebody's door, you're not invited and you're not necessarily wanted. And so we have to understand that nowadays people don't necessarily like answering their doors, and you're probably an inconvenience for even being there. Now I've been sometimes, I've knocked on some doors and someone's like, come in. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. I'm not coming in. And then next thing you know, they open up the door and they're just like, oh, like they thought I was somebody else. They were expecting somebody else. And what a letdown to find out that these church people were at the door. And so, you're not necessarily somebody that they're expecting or that they're wanting. And oftentimes they've got this idea that you're like a salesman, like kind of like when you get a phone call and you don't recognize the number and you're just like, oh, I hope this isn't a sales pitch. And then you call and you answer the phone and it is a sales pitch and you can't wait to like just hang up and say like, hey, I'm not interested. That's the same reaction people have when you knock on their door. They're thinking, oh, how can I get away with not answering the door? Oh, he saw me. He knows that we're here. I got to answer the door. Now, what am I going to say to him? And so a lot of times they're wanting to close the conversation as fast as possible and to get rid of you. So one thing to think about and along that train of thought is not to take it personal if you're rejected. Okay, that's your next blank there. Not to take it personal. Now, number one, there's some people that just hate God, and if they reject you, it's because you're representing God. And Jesus warned us. He said, hey, don't be surprised when people hate you. They hated me first, and even indicated that it's not you that they hate. It's just me that they hate. And so, so don't take it personal for that reason. But not just that. Even if they're good people, even if they believe in God and they maybe even go to church, who knows? But they just don't want to talk to you. Don't take it personal because that's just the normal way of life now. People don't necessarily want to talk. However, a polite and friendly demeanor, can possibly put them at ease. And, just being nice to them and being, a little bit charming, might make them think, yeah, I could talk to this person. But I want to warn you this, don't be fake. Okay, don't be like over the top, just this fake person, fake smile, robotic in your motions and all that stuff. Now, when a person first starts soul winning, I expect that, they might be a little robotic. They might fumble their words and they might even look rude because they're so focused and they're so scared. They might look rude. Those are just things that you're going to have to overcome. But if you can learn to relax and be friendly and be kind, a lot of times that they'll welcome that conversation a little better. And you kind of learn as you get some experience on how to do that. But a polite and friendly demeanor may put them at ease, but don't be fake. All right. Now, as I already kind of mentioned, in our introduction, we always say, we're from Iola Baptist, and we tend to emphasize the word Baptist, okay? Now, letting them know that you're a Baptist might not excite them necessarily. They might not want Baptists to be at their doors, but chances are they'll receive that better than if they think you're from some cult. They think we hear all the time like, oh, I thought you guys were Jehovah's Witnesses. and maybe they read the literature or something, and then they came out and said, "Oh, hey, I thought you were Jehovah's Witnesses. Hey, come on back, and I'll talk to you." Right? But when you make it clear up front we're Baptist, no, yeah, that might turn some people off, but on average, that's received better than if they just assume that you're somebody else. And so we tend to emphasize, hey, we're from the Baptist church, and that puts people at ease. Because in many ways, Baptist nowadays is almost like saying non-denominational. I mean, there's so many different Baptists out there that people have seen all kinds of Baptists, which is why if somebody says that they're Baptist, we don't want to just accept that they're saved, because chances are they're not. We want to try to give the gospel to them as well. All right, now some people, when you first introduce yourself, will immediately say, "I'm not interested," and they'll try to shut the door, and there's not much you can do about that. And there's some that will say, "Oh no, I'm Catholic," or "I'm Seventh-day Adventist," or "I'm something," and they'll just try to get rid of you by saying, "No, I already go to church, and I'm not interested in coming to your church," and that's what they want to make clear. And then occasionally you will get somebody to say, "Oh, Baptist, I used to go to a Baptist church," or "I'm Baptist too," or whatever. Now, if they don't share any of this information, they just kind of stand there looking at you and say, "Okay," you want to find out their background. So you might ask them if they attend church anywhere. All right, that's the next thing that we would usually say. "Hey, you go to church anywhere? You attend a church? You got a church family?" or something along those lines. And this is going to help you learn a little bit about them and about their background. Okay, so this will not necessarily change what you're going to do next. No matter what their answer is, you're pretty much going to do some of the same things. But it will give you a general idea of what of reaction to expect from them whenever you start talking to them about their salvation. Now, if they say that they're Catholic, for example, you know that they're probably going to be relying on the sacraments and works for their salvation. And if they say that they don't go to any church, like, "I don't go to church," you don't know, like, if that means, "Hey, I'm an atheist, I don't care about God," or if they just mean, "I haven't gone to church for a long time," or "I haven't gone since COVID," or whatever. So if they say that they don't go to church, you might ask them some more questions, like, "Have you ever gone to church?" or "Do you believe in God and the Bible and heaven and hell and all that?" And they'll usually kind of let you know. Most often they do around here, at least where we go soul winning, and in Kansas City. Oftentimes they do have some sort of belief in the Bible. But what we want to find out, the main thing we want to find out, is if they're rejectors. That's your next blank there. If they're rejectors of God's word or not. Now, even if they are rejectors, if they say that they're an atheist, or they say, "Hey, I don't care less about Jesus, I studied him out and I don't believe in him," or something like that. Now, they could be rejectors, and you could be wasting your time if you spend too much time talking to them. But, I want to give them a chance to hear the gospel too. So we've got a way to address those who would claim to be rejectors as well. But we'll get to that later. But most likely, here's something you need to notice, that once you start asking them, about their church, and you've already given them an invite to your church, they think that that's the only reason you're there. And quite honestly, most churches, that's the extent of soul winning they do, and they'll even call that their soul winning program. And all they're really doing is maybe just putting door hangers and invites to their church on doors, but maybe at the best, they're saying, "Hey, I'd like to invite you to our church. Come out. We got this big day going on," or whatever. And a lot of people call that soul winning. Okay, but the truth of the matter is, we're not there to invite them to church. I mean, we are inviting them to church, but that's not our main purpose. Our main purpose is to lead them down this process where we can talk to them about their salvation and try to get them saved. So let's see, where did I leave off? So most likely they are suspecting that your only purpose is only to get them to come to your church. So they might try to close the conversation by telling you that they already go to church, or sometimes they'll say, "Hey, I might come check you out," and "Yeah, we'll come. What time's your services?" "Yeah, I might be there Sunday." Look, they're almost never there. Okay, so they might say that, but that's just because they're trying to close the conversation. if possible, you would like to keep the conversation going. Now, you don't want to waste time if they're not interested. You want to go to the next door where somebody might be interested. But if there's any way to get them interested and to get the conversation going, you want to keep going. So now that they think that they're kind of like, hey, I told them I don't go to church, or I go to a different church already, or whatever. They think that they're ending the conversation. But now is the time to tell them, hey, that's not really all that we're here for. We're here for something more important than that. Okay, and so the next thing that we do is we ask them if they know for sure that they would go to heaven. So it might sound something like this. Well, of course, we'd love to have you come check our church out sometime. But more importantly than what church you go to, we try to ask everybody the same question, and that is, if you died today, do you know for sure you'd go to heaven? How would you answer that question? And you're putting them on the spot, okay? Understand that. You're putting them on the spot. And I'll come back to that in a minute, but let's look at this note, okay? Though, again, I touched on this a minute ago about how, we're not really there. Our main purpose actually isn't to get them to come to our church. I mean, hopefully they will. If they get saved especially, we want them to come and get baptized and begin to be discipled. And that happens sometimes, but it's pretty rare. Okay, and so the main thing that we're doing at this point is we're trying to preach the gospel to them. Now, though it's an unpopular stance among most churches today, we do not necessarily want everybody to come be a part of our church. It's just the reality of it, okay? That sounds so backwards that some people would gasp and be offended that I would even say that. Why you should want everybody to come to your church. Now, look, it's not that I believe we should be a respecter of persons, because it would be wicked for us to say, hey, we don't want your kind, we don't want your type, you don't dress like us, you don't smell like us, you don't live on the right side of the tracks as us, or whatever. That would be wicked to not want somebody to come to your church because of that. Okay, James makes that very clear. But because there are some people out there who would be a danger to our church, and particularly to our ladies and to our children, we don't necessarily just want everybody to just come and have no protection in place, okay? Not only that, there are people, we live in a strange time right now where there's all kinds of perverts out there, and there are people who have these agendas, and they're trying to turn the world into this weird place, and we got people, putting up these sick ads, and even, just recently we had an advertisement from a Twix commercial, right? That's trying to promote boys that want to wear princess dresses, and that's no big deal, and promote witches and stuff like that, and it's just so weird. What does a Twix, candy bar have to do with these types of agendas? But that's the case. And children's programs, cartoons and all that have added homosexual characters into it, and other avenues. The media in the public schools and all that is just infiltrating our people today. So you don't think that they're trying to get into churches too? There are people trying to get into churches to cause problems. So we're not necessarily just going around trying to invite everybody to church. That's what some people do. Some people are just like, hey, we just want you to come to church, and then when you come to church, we can preach to you, and we can get you saved and all that stuff. Well, now you got all kinds of people, and don't get me wrong, we do put out the invites. If somebody, isn't home, we leave it on the door. So obviously we're inviting people to come to church, but the reality is that's not our main focus. We're going door to door to preach the gospel, and then we can deal with later what happens, after they get saved. The gospel is we're to go into the world and preach the gospel. Okay, church is where saved people are supposed to come and be discipled, and iron sharpening iron, and that we can grow in fellowship in Christ. All right, but let me see here. If they get saved, then it's definitely our desire that they would be baptized and discipled, but that doesn't mean that our church is right for them, or that we would even recommend them to some other church. So even though we give out invites and typically leave an open welcome to come, our purpose isn't to talk up the church and convince them to come. We can take that step after they get saved, okay? it's important to keep that in mind when you're soul winning. It's hard because we've been trained in our mind, that our whole job is to get them to come to our church as if it's a business, and unfortunately, a lot of people in the world, that's what they think churches are trying to do, is just get you in there so they can have more people, they can have more tithes and lots of money and all that stuff. We don't want to. That's not us. Okay, we want to preach the gospel. We're freely giving the gospel, and then if they come, be part of the church, well, then we're growing as a family. But we're not just out there just trying to invite everybody. All right, so let's back up to this question we asked. How would you answer the question if you died today? You know for sure you go to heaven. Now, in the next lesson, we'll talk about the different responses that we get to that question. But I want to finish this lesson by this last point on B there. It's important to note that this is the point where people will get uncomfortable with the conversation. Talking about church. Hey, you went to church. Hey, we're from Iola Baptist. Oh, really? What kind of church is that? Where are you guys located? What are your times? That's not offensive. You went to church somewhere? Oh, yeah, I grew up in a Catholic church. That's not offensive. But the moment you say, hey, more importantly, if you died today, would you go to heaven? That's gonna offend some people uncomfortable. All right, and they will get more uncomfortable the more you press them, unless they are just really interested in knowing what you have to say. But that's okay. This is confrontational soul winning. And I don't mean by confrontational like we're going to go be jerks and hey, I'm saying we got to be kind and we need to be respectful and all that stuff. We're not just like in their face, like, being like that kind of confrontational. But confrontational just means we're confronting them with this very important question that they have to deal with. Okay? This is the point where some people, like maybe someone's a silent partner and they've just, they're just learning how to do the speaking, which look, don't ever minimize the role of a silent partner. Okay, we all need, that's an important job. While one person is talking, it doesn't matter. Even an experienced soul winner will sometimes be a silent partner, and it's an important job. Where they can aid the other person. I don't really have my notes, so I didn't plan on talking about it much, but man, there's a lot that silent partner does. Not only are they supposed to be, hopefully prepared, and they're taking notes and they're taking everything in, and they're there in case any kind of accusations are made or something. They're a witness, and then not only that, but sometimes the person that's talking gets tripped up, and maybe they can't think of a verse, or you might be able to help them with that, or maybe they ask you for a Bible or some material to give to the person. Maybe you have that prepared. I mean, a lot of good reasons that we have a soul winning partner. But sometimes a soul-winning partner says, you know what, I think I'm going to take a chance. Maybe they've never really presented the gospel, but they're like, I want to start speaking. Well, we'll often, first step is we might say, hey, why don't you, go through the initial stage. Why don't you introduce us? Hey, I'm so-and-so, and this is my pastor, Rocky, and we're from Iola Baptist, and you go through those motions and learn that easy, non-confrontational stuff, and say, "You go to church anywhere?" and go through all those motions, and then maybe at the point say, "Hey, more importantly than that, if you were to die today, you know for sure you go to heaven." At this point, a silent partner, if they're nervous, if they don't want to go any farther than that, they can say, "Hey, well, here's my pastor," or here's. Take you through the Bible and show you how you can be saved. Okay, because that's the point where it gets confrontational. And sometimes you can see this on the people, and they're getting flustered, or they're getting mad, or they'll even say, like, I'm uncomfortable talking about that. Okay, now, we want them to get through this. We want them to be confronted with this. We want it, even if it bothers them, we want them to be thinking seriously about this. But if they're getting too uncomfortable, they'll likely try to find an escape and try to get rid of you, and they don't want to talk about it anymore. So one of the things you can do to kind of calm them and put them at ease is to be like, hey, I don't mean to offend you or put you on the spot. It's just an important question, and if you don't know the answer to that, we want to be able to help you. So that's why I'm asking, what do you think someone has to do to go to heaven? If you say that in the right way and you kind of let them know that you're on their side, you're just trying to help them, then it's possible that they won't, they might still be a little offended, they might still be somewhat uncomfortable, but it won't be as bad if you can kind of help put them at ease. All right, so that's the end of the first lesson, and in the second lesson we will go into the typical responses to that question. Are you for sure you're going to heaven? It's not necessarily just a yes or a no question, but a yes or no answer, but there are about 4 different responses that we get. And so in the next lesson, we'll break those down one by one and talk about those. So let's go to the Lord in prayer. Father, we thank you for your word and for the opportunity to be fishers of men and to be soul winners and go out and plant the seeds and all the things the Bible tells us that we are to do. Lord, I pray that you'll help us as a church to do this and fulfill this command. And I pray that you help us to bear much fruit for your honor and glory. I pray in Jesus' name. Amen.